Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Morning Glow. Good morning. I want to say good morning to David. Good morning to Mac. Good morning to King. What's that? Kingo 24. Good morning to each and every one of you. The phone lines are open. The phone lines are open this morning. All you have to do is give us a call 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Give us a call. We love to hear from you. Got a topic we're gonna talk. Well, actually, we got a few topics we're gonna cover today. Good morning, Rex. How you doing, Rex? We got a few topics that we're going to cover this morning. This is an open conversation day. So if you have something that you want to talk about, something that's going on in and around your community, Philip, good morning. Good to have you. Is there anything going on in and around your community and you want to just talk about it and discuss it? Very simple. Very simple. Give us a call 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Give us a call. We love to have you this morning and love to hear from you. Waiting on everybody to come in. This the day is Friday. We had a very busy week, so people might be a little tired this morning, but they're gonna be coming in a little bit. They will definitely be getting in here in a little bit. We talked um yesterday, I think it was. We talked about that vaccine, about the booster, about getting the booster, and I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people were saying that everybody should get. Hey, me, I just said you very unique name, but they were saying I had a lot of people saying that people should really get that vaccine. That is very important that people get the vaccine for several reasons they was talking about. But my thing is this right here. Um, it's a personal preference. I think it's a personal preference, and if for whatever reason, and everybody have their own reason for whatever they do, but if for whatever reason you decide that you don't want to get that vaccine, then it's totally up to you. It's totally up to you. Now we got Captain Leonard with us this morning. Captain Leonard, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, Raheem and the Morning Glow family.
Man, I got to start off with you by asking you, man, what is going on in the political world, man? Because we got a lot of people. People been talking to me about this voting process and what's going on and how they're trying to really take the voting rights away from a lot of people. Leonard, what do you say to that, man? This is your area of expertise, and you're very much more equipped to talk about this than me. So, what's on your heart, brother?
It's the same. It's the same agenda. It's to disenfranchise as many liberal voters as possible.
Mm-hmm.
For the very simple fact, the party that does not want to move forward and and sign this bill are those individuals who have always benefited from disenfranchising people from the vote.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a struggle right now in Congress with the Freedom to Vote Act. And the Freedom to Vote Act is really an act that increases access to the polls. People may remember sometimes in various states or what have you, elections are handled differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are certain strategies that you can use to sort of sway the vote in your way when you can. One
Mm-hmm.
way is to discourage individuals from voting, whether it be by closing polling locations,
Mm-hmm.
making last minute changes to locations or information without notification. Also, we noticed a lot of additional things that were added this past election cycle, such as drop off boxes and
Yes.
things of that nature. Anything
Mm-hmm.
that was done to increase voter turnout of Americans, the Republican side is against.
Mm-hmm.
That's their strategy. Make it harder for those people less interested in their agenda to vote. They used to always use a tactic, which they'll probably use again, the fear tactic.
Mm-hmm.
Try their message is you should be scared of Democrats and they
Yeah.
rule because they're responsible for all of this crime and poverty and things of this nature, and we have to maintain certain standards. Like one,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be anti-immigrant, we have to be anti-women's rights, and all these other types of things that are usually at odds with democratic citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that we have a lot of issues right now. And a lot of individuals must educate themselves before going to the poll.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how narrow my view may be of something, I vote in the best interest of the masses of people. And
Mm-hmm.
that is usually part of the Democratic agenda.
But
So,
am I hearing you say that you're not married to one side or the other?
no, I'm married
Okay.
to the side that I believe benefits the masses of Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Okay.
agenda is usually presented by the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
It
Okay.
has never been really presented in my lifetime by the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, if you, and also there were issues with other, because most people, well, we got a two-party system. And no, it's not a two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
There are two parties that happen to be dominant. One is the
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party and the other is the Republican Party. They're dominant. But there are other parties,
Mm-hmm.
such as, sometimes there's a Green Party and things like this. You'll notice various parties behind the scenes, but they don't even usually garner enough votes or support
Mm-hmm.
to make it to your major debates and things like that. So when you hear people talking about other parties or what have you, you can establish another party if you would like, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to become prominent in order to make a difference. And the
Mm-hmm.
largest, and the Democrats seem to huddle around for the people. The people are in the best interest. That's the priority. The Republican sides favor corporations.
Now, what do you say to the people? And we got Mr. Toussaint with this as well. I want to go to him. But what do you say to the people that says that the Democratic Party back in the day were not friendly, were not kind to people that look like you and I?
Well, this is not back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using old information to make new decisions, you're not as educated,
Mm-hmm.
because education would have brought you forward to 2021 so you would understand the current situation.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, if you just go back in the last 10 years, you will see a completely different outlook that you should
Mm-hmm.
be focusing on if you're looking to compare something. But most people just be running their mouth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
they're trying to push a certain point or get people to agree with what they're saying, regardless of the information that's available.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
good.
lying is not working like it used to,
Mm-hmm.
because more voters have turned out, more voters understand what's at stake. It's just making sure that when they go to the polls, they're voting in their best interest.
Okay. If we have any of our Republican brothers and sisters out there, man, that feel a little differently, that think the Republican Party is better or doing more for the people than what Leonard is talking about, give us a call, man. We'd love to hear from you. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Toussaint, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm well as can be, brother.
There you go. you sounded, brother. You sounded. What do you say about this whole situation, man, surrounding voting and what people are saying in
Mm.
regards to voting and people having the right to vote? Because really in 2021, they're trying to take away the people's right to vote, Toussaint, and I don't see how they can actually do that or make that effective, but they're trying. What do you say to that?
I say they don't really have to. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to do something, you're gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do something, you're gonna make it happen. No matter what walls they put up, and I don't mean physical walls,
Yeah.
try to block you. What
Mm-hmm.
kind of schemes or tactics
Okay.
they try? Manipulation, scare tactics,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they try, there's a way around it. But what they try to do is discourage you
Mm-hmm.
in so many different ways. There's so many plots and plans and schemes to keep you ignorant or make you feel like you just you this hopeless and helpless people
Mm-hmm.
that, oh man, I might as well not. It ain't gonna do no good. That's exactly what they want you to think.
Mm-hmm.
My
Mm-hmm.
vote don't count.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't count your vote, you are right.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you don't vote, your
Mm-hmm.
vote don't count.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly, you got it. You
Mm-hmm.
right. You are correct.
You own
And
it,
that's
doggone
what
it.
they want you to, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you got it. You finally got it right.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't vote, your vote don't count.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole plan, for you to feel like I don't need to go out there at all because
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to do anything. No, you're not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if we find out that if we go out there in spite of what manipulation, whatever tactics they got, if we show up, and I say we,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really, I'm like, listen, I'm not part of any party. I don't go to parties.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get myself involved in parties. Who's right for the job? Who's the
Yes.
best?
Yes.
Let me say that. Let me correct that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the right for the job is a, I cannot say that. I don't really know how to say it. It's just, it's kind of like uh, the um, the steering wheel. It's not the car.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just what guides it.
Yes.
And why I say that is because there are certain people that have control. They want control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They want to be in charge. They're
Yes.
the ones that behind the scenes you may select a governor or a mayor, but the governor, the mayor, and the president don't run nothing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They don't make no decisions. We
Mm-hmm.
blame them for the good and the bad, but they present something. You remember the old Schoolhouse Rock?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I think everybody needs to go back and replay that, because when we were coming up, they were showing us how things work.
Yes.
I'm just a bill. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm only a bill.
Oh Lord,
So
literally
I'm
singing.
sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am off to the warehouse, White House, where I wait here online with whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hope and pray I'll be along.
Oh, I hope and pray that I will, but
Pray that I
today
will,
I am
but
still
today
just
I
a
am
bill.
still just a bill.
Mm.
Go watch it. Go pay attention. Pay attention.
They gonna teach you something?
They was trying to. Oh, they'll teach you something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it'll show you that they put a bill out there, but it don't become law till it goes through channels.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that we ignore in our cities that are more important than the ones that we send up there to have.
Mm-hmm. They
We got legislators and people that really supposed to speak up for us.
supposed to.
Them the folks
Mm-hmm.
supposed to. If you stop um, uh, letting them manipulate by giving free sandwiches and barbecues and showing up at church on election,
Mm-hmm.
I don't appreciate them
Well,
coming like that,
you sure gotta climb.
Mm-hmm.
because they just show up during the election, and then when you call their office after the election, they don't answer.
Can't get them.
No,
Can't get them. Mm-hmm. Watch this. Watch
and it's
this.
your fault.
Exactly. Here you
Go
go.
A
ahead.
lot of steps to get to
Yeah.
this Capitol building here in Washington. But I wonder who that sad little scrap of paper is.
I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill.
Can you
And
hear
I'm
it?
sitting here on Capitol
Mm-hmm.
Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know
Oh,
I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
Gee, Bill, you certainly have a lot of patience and courage.
Well, I got this far. When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called a congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." And he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and it became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me a law. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I got as far as Capitol Hill. Well, now I'm stuck in committee, and I'll sit here and wait while a few key congressmen discuss and debate whether they should let me be a law. I hope and pray that they will. But today I am still just a bill.
Listen to those congressmen arguing. Is all that discussion and debate about you?
Yeah, I'm one of the lucky ones. Most bills never even get this far. I hope they decide to report on me favorably, otherwise I may die.
Die?
Yeah, die in committee. Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol Hill, well, then I'm off to the White House where I'll wait in a line with a lot of other bills for the president to sign. And if he signs me, then I'll be a law. I hope and pray that he will. But today I am still just a bill.
You mean even if the whole Congress says you should be a law, the president can still say no?
Yes, that's called a veto. If the president vetoes me, I have to go back to Congress and they vote on me again, and by that time you're so
By
old.
that time, it's very unlikely that you become a law. It's not easy to become a law, is it?
No, but how I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
He signed your bill. Now you're a law.
Oh, yes.
He signed your bill. Now you are a law. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother? And Tucson was absolutely right, man. Though I used to love those schoolhouse rocks, man, because they taught you so much, and that's just one example of it. What do you say to that, Leonard?
I mean, it's like I said, policy is usually the same how they go about it. What they're arguing about is how long it takes. And what usually happens is there has to be a discussion about the bill. So one side may block discussion to keep a vote from moving forward. Most people know that this strategy is the use of the filibuster. This is what the big issue is with the Freedom to Vote Act and things like that. One side is trying to gain leverage over the other. And they have this rule that says you need a 60 vote majority in order to bring something to the floor for discussion. Well, sometimes people use it to stall, which was how it was used back during Jim Crow as well, to stall the vote for civil rights. Anytime you want to stop things from going on, you get enough people on your side to block discussion. If you can block discussion, you can block a vote on an issue. So they're arguing right now, and each side is trying to determine whether or not they want to change the rules of what that is called as the filibuster. And that's one of the issues also that people have. There's the federal level issues, and then there's local level issues. Local level issues involve how they conduct their elections. Some people have different strategies that try to lock people in to a particular party most of the time.
Yes.
You know, based on how you vote in the primary, determines how you voted previously and things of that nature. The ballot that you receive, your Democratic ballot, you should be presented with a ballot for each valid candidate when you go in, and based on which one you choose, usually kind of sets up for how it goes forward in some states. You've heard of Iowa caucuses and things like that. That's because there's particular things in Iowa that are not the same as in Georgia. Iowa is usually looked at, and you hear that used, is because Iowa set one of the earliest dates to start their election process. So people look to Iowa and see how that turns out to kind of gauge where the rest of the country may go in the vote. But the Freedom to Vote Act is all that stuff that came out of all that claim that the Republicans made of an improper election, which has always been false. The courts have shot the request down and everything else as it relates to the Republicans' claim of election fraud.
Their
So,
claim, and how much money, Tucson, did they waste going back doing all these different counts and just trying to make the numbers fit the agenda or what they was trying to accomplish? How much money did they waste on Tucson?
Well, when it's not your money, you don't care how much it is.
Yeah.
You know, the bad thing about it is that most of the stuff is the money that we work for every day. And at the end of and what the other thing about it is, when they finish fussing, they don't argue about anything else. Well, they argue about everything else, but they agree on giving themselves a raise for not showing up. If they don't want to a bill to pass or a law to or something, they go arguing and one side, the Democrats or the Republicans, you notice what they do? They don't show up. But they get paid anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm right or not in saying this, but most of them get paid for the rest of their lives.
Is that factual in it?
Say that again.
He said most of them get paid for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they got their pension plans and everything.
And how many terms do they have to serve to get their pension plan?
Well, you only have to actually serve one term.
Exactly.
And you paid the rest of your life.
Who does that on any job? That you serve 2, 3, 4 years on a job and get a full pension?
Wow.
I ain't never heard of it in any other. I don't. You get a full pension?
No,
I mean, I don't. I'm not.
That's a pretty good little setup. That's pretty good little setup there.
20, 30 years.
Yeah. That's pretty good little setup there, man. You work one term, 2, 3, 4 years, or whatever, and you pay for the rest of your life, man. That's a pretty good little setup there.
For being corrupt.
Ain't that something?
You don't even have to do the right thing. Most of them, if it really comes down to it, if you search them out, they deserve prison sentences.
Majority of them
need to go to jail.
Majority of them, absolutely. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Read some of my comments we got here. We got Badger with us this morning. Badger says, let me see. Yeah, that was true. However, once again, men in power decide what is. And his second comment, he says, presidents can't veto anymore. And the third comment, he says, they old folks, aren't we supposed to take care of them? Laugh out loud. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother? In one of the comments.
Well, let's clear up one thing. Presidents can still veto legislation. The presidential veto will always be a power for the executive office. That's their check and balance on the legislative house.
Okay.
Like the court has a check and balance on the other two branches of government. The legislature has a check on the balance of the judicial branch of government.
Okay.
So it's set up where if one was to try to exact so much power, as we noticed with Trump, the only thing that could have possibly stopped him was the Congress could have stepped in and ruled a certain way based on his actions. Or the Supreme Court can turn around and rule anything that he may or may say as unconstitutional.
Okay.
To bring that issue to the point. But what people have to remember is these issues in the Senate, because once a bill leaves the House, it has to go to the Senate.
Yes.
And the Senate is where usually the larger struggle is. Of course, because you could, remember, the president may be a Democrat, but the Senate may be controlled by the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how that sets up various debates and things going back and forth.
Contrast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's set up for old plain, regular old checks and balances that you learned back in grade school, and you can see which one is, exacting power at certain times if you watch it. We know that the president can't make legislation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but Congress makes legislation, and Congress in turn can approve of something that the president may be interested in, but they still have to write the legislation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he
Mm-hmm.
can use executive privilege to do things that don't require legislation. That's that branch's power, executive branch's power to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of them have various ways of accomplishing things. And right now we see where one side wants to hold up all votes as it relates to this act, Freedom
Mm-hmm.
to Vote Act, which
Mm-hmm.
would which is just they really want to, like we said before, block individuals from going to polls as much as possible, make voter ID requirements as difficult as possible to
Mm-hmm.
produce, and things of that nature. Everybody that drives thinks, well, everybody should have a driver's license. Everybody does not have a driver's license.
Let me ask you a question. As a whole, and I know this is a wide open question, and we got a caller. We're gonna come to you in 1 second. But as a whole, let me ask you this, man. Um, your what people would deem poor, your poor white class. Do they normally vote Republican or Democrat?
Well, it just depends. Most
Mm-hmm.
of the if you are well, first of all, you put a lot of terms together.
Mm-hmm.
Poor people have a certain interest, or people
Mm-hmm.
of low income individuals
Yeah.
have get no love from the Republican side of the house usually,
Mm-hmm. You're
especially
poor.
because the
You're
low
poor.
income people usually
Yep.
need benefits and things of
Mm-hmm.
that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
historically, the Democratic Party has been that party that looks out for those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, what the Republicans are constantly trying to do is pose legislation that would reduce that participation. Now, you
Mm-hmm.
spoke about white people who happen to be low income.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
White people who happen to be low income are usually duped into believing that the Republican Party has its best interests at heart. But really, the same thing I used to say, if you believe that someone is your enemy, you're more likely to try to find allies against that enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So, low income white individuals are usually stoked by the fear factor, threatening that something's going to be taken from them because they're white,
Mm-hmm.
and they should always be against minorities.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to vote for people that appeal to their interests. Low
Mm-hmm.
income, a lot of times, low educated, more biased, more racist, and
Wow.
a lot of times. So that is some of the things that contribute to this contrary
So
vote.
they play right into the Republicans' hands, basically.
Exactly. That's because the Republicans play that game very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not new. It's not new at all. Luckily, a lot of low income whites are
That's
coming around to
mm-hmm.
understanding that the benefits that they're receiving and those concerned about their welfare are
Mm-hmm.
coming from the other side of the table. So they may have to be less biased as it relates to racism
Mm-hmm.
in order to protect themselves and their families in the future.
This is directed to you. It was Badger. He's saying that to you right there, Leonard.
Mhm.
You see it?
Well, new level of thinking is necessary
Mm-hmm.
because the same old gets very little done. And
Mm.
we should fight a lot harder. The National Democratic Party needs to do a better job at exposing agendas, and people need to educate themselves about the agendas.
Mm-hmm.
You have organizations and things like that that help you out. The news, television programs is a good start, but you need to go look at things for yourself and examine
Yes.
your families. One big issue going on right now is healthcare enrollment. Remember, the Republicans were against this type of affordable health care at one point, But luckily, they came around and they were able to get bipartisan support. But we've seen those who still weren't satisfied
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that continually attack the bill and file lawsuit after lawsuit. Now, what type of person wouldn't want everyone to have access to affordable health care?
Mm-hmm.
Who can call in and say that everyone shouldn't have access to affordable health care?
I don't think anyone.
508
Yeah.
924 3521. There are almost 50% of Americans feel that way
Mm-hmm.
because they're racist if they believe they're used certain things like racism to believe that, well, that's for minorities.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow.
For some reason, like they don't get sick and they don't go to the doctor, I guess. I don't know. They don't have medical problems. I don't think that's so true.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're easily uh, influenced, steered by racism, you could be walking right into the trap and voting against your own interest that
Mm-hmm.
causes for the demise of you and the well-being of your family.
Exactly. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Curtis, good morning. How you doing this morning?
How y'all doing, man?
Hey, doing good, doing good. What do you say? What do you say about that, Curtis? I know you have some expertise in this as well, man. And don't you go to Tucson? Coming to you next. White what people hate man. I'm trying to be real. I don't want to be disrespectful in how I say this, but lower class poor or white individuals, how do they typically as a whole from your viewpoint vote, Democratic or Republican?
I think Leonard kind of hit it right on the head. It all depends on on their geographics. You know what I mean? Because a lot of your poor whites that's intermixed in black communities, even that vote particularly is split by party.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a larger percentage of poor whites vote Republican, and it's because, like Leonard said, the Republican Party has been good at teaching these folks that their poverty exists because of the minority community.
Mm-hmm.
So the Republican Party of today, of the last man, of the last, well, you might as well say the last 40 to 60 years, has been has mastered the art of deflection. So they tell these poor whites that their situation is because of, for example, immigration,
Mm-hmm.
or because their jobs was taken by black folk, and this, that, and the third. And in reality, that is so far from the truth that yeah, like it's almost a fantasy land. And one of the things that Leonard said that really kind of made me evaluate the connection is a lot of times if you get into a debate with them in reference to just that issue, you'll hear at some point during that debate, they'll go back to the Civil War, to the ending of the Civil War, and talk about how uh, the Southern, I guess you call them Dixiecrat whites, I don't know what you would call them, but Southern whites, because back then, the poor white folks in the South were Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll talk about how the Northerners came and took their land and took their jobs, and during Reconstruction, for example, you may hear that during Reconstruction there were black appointees to state and local municipalities that didn't deserve to be there. You'll hear all sorts of things that will automatically create this idea within their community or their voting block or the voting block that they want to say that as a result of immigration and or I don't know what you would call it, African American freedom, that the words kind of escape me right now, but as a result of those things, they have been made poor. The sad reality in it is the whole while that they making them look at us or look at the immigrants, they the main ones going in their pocket and robbing them because their initiatives do not line up with what is good and just and right for the people, for the population that they serve. A prime example is with this new Build Back bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got folks saying that, and I'm still trying to gain hold of just what the American public is thinking, man, because it's almost foolish, it's asinine, really. They're saying that the only way that they will vote for this and compromise, they're saying the only way that they will vote yes, one of the only ways that they will vote yes, is if you change, for example, the Family Children's Medical Leave Act from 12 weeks to 4 weeks. Now, if I evaluate that, I have to ask, who is pushing that initiative? Because, I mean, that gives a woman 12 weeks off after she has a baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So, who in their right mind and good conscience would put that up there as a compromise? And who in their right mind with good conscience, what woman in their right mind and good conscience, what man in his right mind and good conscience would support a woman not being able to fully heal and take care of her child for 12 weeks? What is the purpose in that? So I don't understand a lot of what's going on right now, Raheem. I can only connect it to greed.
Exactly. Good deal. Yeah.
I can't.
Exactly. Let me get a phone number. They ask for the phone number is 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Badger, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Another beautiful day.
Good deal, good deal. What's on your heart, brother? I saw you type a few things in the chat box there. What's on your heart, brother? Talk to me.
Well, this topic that we're on, growing up being a half-blood, I actually got some points of views on this one.
Okay, let's talk about it.
So, growing up, what you could call poor white, you voted or didn't vote. And most of the people I knew grew up around, like the other, low class, usually ended up with a decision. And this is literally what was taught to me as a child. You vote for the lesser of two evils. Because neither one has your best intentions. And all they're after is the money that comes with the seat. So they'll do the bare minimum to keep their position. Other than that, they don't care.
Now, as a whole, Badger, growing up and thinking back, would most of those individuals vote Democratic or Republican?
they literally voted for the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
If the Republican tricked them more, they'd vote Republican. If the
Mm-hmm.
Democrat had a better silver tongue, they'd vote Democrat.
Okay. Okay. So they like I said to Lena earlier, they were not married to either or. Okay. I can go with that.
Not where I grew up. But you always have to understand, like, and this is like, there seems to be this perspective when it comes to the racial stuff
Mm-hmm.
that I have been coming across a lot, and we weren't taught, like where I grew up. None of us white kids, or what you would call a white kid, grew up being Democrat or Republican.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally taught that we are a slave to our country. If you if you want
Mm-hmm.
money, go to the military. If you can't get to the military, you need to go to college, but you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. And when you vote, you're voting for the lesser of two evils, or you relinquish your voting rights.
Mm. Wow.
And since you are white, you have no rights because everyone else gets things for free, and you're going to have to work and die as a poor man unless you learn how to
See,
screw people over.
and that last part of the comment, I know that some people would have oppositions to that because some people will say, and dealing with let's deal with for a second. And I got a couple of calls. I want to go to the callers. The welfare system, how the welfare system is set up. If you look at the face that they put out in front of the in the welfare system, and let me before I even go there, because I know some people may listen and say, well, y'all are being no, we're not being divisive. We're not doing that. It's not no white against black or us against it's none of that. I'm just saying what I see, and people, anybody could disagree with me if they so deem necessary. But my thing is, with the welfare system, a lot of time they'll put a black face on there and say that this is who is benefiting from the welfare system. Well, the numbers sometimes and a lot of times say something very different. The numbers say something very different. I'm going to go to the phone line. Kirk, give me a very quick version of what you say to this, brother. I got a couple of callers holding on. Curtis, you there?
I'm right here, right here.
Yeah. What do you say to that?
Now, what did you say? Because I was looking for my wallet.
Man, I was talking about. I using the example of the welfare system. How they a lot of times, if you look at the media and stuff like that, they have a black face on the welfare system as the one that's benefiting most from it. Is that a factual? Is that factual? Is that an accurate picture?
No, it's not factual. No, and that's a poor representation of the welfare system because they're trying to send a message to the world that the welfare system is what's the word I'm looking for? Is dominated by the black community, and that's the biggest lie told since Jesus Christ was a white man. The welfare system was not designed for black folks at all. It was not set up for black folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's number one. Number two, if you realistically look at the working bloc in America, both the working poor, and the middle class is propped up by the working population of the black people. I mean, I hate to say it like that, and a lot of people don't want to believe it, but it's true. There's way more white folks. There's way more of our Caucasian American brothers on food stamps and public assistance than there is African American.
Mm.
It's the truth. If people don't believe me, go look at the statistics. But they don't put that out because that does not set well with the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Leonard, what do you say to that? And Carla, you're up next. And Tucson, you're up next. Leonard, what do you say to that? This welfare system and how they project it to in the media, in the media.
Well,
Leonard,
that
Leonard,
too.
bring your face back. Just there you go, my man.
that too is another issue that people are coming around about
Mm-hmm.
because they have seen such a thing as a pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
as well as prices are increasing on just your bare basic necessities like uh, housing, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, is a big issue. Now, if you look at the agenda to find out who's doing the most for the housing issue,
Mm-hmm.
if you are homeless or you are low income, low educated, what types of jobs are you going to usually qualify for?
Mm-hmm.
Who is responsible for getting rid of or creating those jobs? That's why when you hear talking about jobs, 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 they've been talking about it for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a certain party that is for the quote working man, and the other party is on the side of the corporations.
Mm-hmm.
If the masses of people are W 2 people who work for somebody else who are low income, who are low educated, are probably receiving less income.
Mm-hmm.
So their fight is going to be, it was always about jobs. So they convinced poor whites that the minorities were taking their low income jobs.
Mm-hmm.
See, people ain't fighting over high educated jobs where you
Yeah.
need a lot of skills. They
Mm-hmm.
fighting over bare minimum jobs.
Low hanging
And
fruit.
then we've seen also a fight recently where there are some people believe that the minimum pay should be raised.
Mm-hmm.
And the federal government went so far as to raising the pay for its employees
Mm-hmm.
employed by the government. So you see a contrast there in agendas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not whether or not, well, I vote Republican, I vote Democrat or whatever. Tell me why you vote Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you vote specifically Democrat. I vote Democrat because of healthcare
Mm-hmm.
choice. Maybe you're big on that. So maybe that's important to you because you have a person elderly in your family
Mm-hmm.
or a child that's handicapped in your family
Yeah.
or anyone that may be in need of Social Security, disability, and these types of things when times get rough. We've seen how times have got rough. We see
Mm-hmm.
what side was more into supporting the people with that infrastructure bill as opposed to supporting corporations with that bill.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the type of things that come into play and that shifts people thinking. If you're just one of those people, especially those people who have some type of sympathy for the Confederacy at all, and you're down here in the South, you're probably going to be more likely to vote Republican
Republican. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they appeal to your hateful side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about it. What type of person, citizen, votes for the side that lost the war?
Mm.
Think about that individual.
Mm-hmm.
That type of individual. They're not looking for unity among America.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for segregation and ways to set themselves apart and above everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But now reality is set in. So you still got your people so confused and so, just backwards that they'll vote that way because something they were told or something they were learned 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's always vote for Republicans if you are against minorities.
Mm-hmm.
That has
Device.
been one of those what you hear dog whistle. Remember when you
Mm-hmm.
said it was
Yeah.
a dog whistle?
Uh-huh.
Only certain dogs hear that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's those low income, low educated whites
Yeah.
that are
Yep.
still being encouraged to vote Republican
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
for that particular agenda that is
Mm-hmm.
against their actual success and progress.
508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. If you have any input, you want to talk about this thing, give us a call. 508-924-3521. VP, what's on your heart, brother? Tucson, stay by, man. Come to you next. VP, good morning. How you doing this morning? VP. VP.
My bad, I'm in the truck. I was trying to. Can you hear me?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you, sir. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. On a rare Friday, traveling with Friday. Good morning.
Good morning, Friday. How you doing, sis?
All is well.
Good deal, good deal. What do y'all think about this topic we're talking about this morning?
I think it hit home a little bit growing up in the South, in the hood housing around Section 8.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of get a glimpse of that, and then getting out, becoming military, and becoming, I guess, lower middle class in a comparison, and getting a little more education in how some of the political economic systems work. Definitely can show you how you've been curtailed to believe in one is the other. Now that I've gotten older, I have a lot more black friends that are actually turning Republican, which I, at first I was kind of dumbfounded by, but now I realize how they move their money.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much on how they feel the Republican Party as whole feels about the nation, but how the Republican Party moves money, and a lot of them have forgotten where they come from. And although the Democratic Party seems to push more of the welfare into the minority communities on a promotional basis, I found, like Leonard was saying, I asked him why would you, like, for the Trump thing, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, y'all know this man is openly hating minorities,
Mm-hmm.
but yet he stood by Trump, which tells me you left. I guess you don't want to judge a person, but it tells me your soul ain't all the way there
Mm-hmm.
for you to look at money in a certain manner. So for me, I grew up Republicans were big business, and they're about corporations. I'm not one who believes a business should be known as a grieving entity
Mm-hmm.
and protected like an individual. And the laws that are governing the land is now giving corporations the same standard as it does a person.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even get health care in this country without having to fight your friends, your doctors, everybody else, or even an income increase without
Mm-hmm.
them trying to like a lot of my friends were telling me, well, why would we give $15 an hour to somebody at McDonald's? And I was like, well, next time you go to McDonald's, show me all the teenagers you see in there, because you're ignoring what's going on in this nation.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the 1950s that we're rolling up our sleeves and working in factories. This is now becoming an information technology and a service-based country.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you keep looking at these fast food, because you ain't going to McDonald's and paying like you used to $2 for a Happy Meal and a Big Mac. You're paying $11 per for a combo now.
Yeah.
So where's all that McDonald's money going? Because it ain't going in that. Because most people don't even go inside buildings anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through the drive-thru. So why are you charging me so much for this?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing people should start paying attention to when it comes to this Democratic and Republican type mentality. Both of them are two evils of the same devil.
Mm-hmm.
They both one side of the horn,
Mm-hmm.
or one or two wings of the same eagle soaring up high above whatever you thought you had going on in your life.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Oh, look at. Okay, preacher. Hold on for a minute, preacher. I got to do this right here. Let me go to Tucson. Tucson, what's on your heart, brother?
I don't know. I'm just listening. I think that what happens is that the scheme is for them, for a person not to want to be known, to be associated with a certain thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially per se handouts from the government. They don't mind getting it, but they don't want to be known
Mhm.
to be getting it. Just like assistance, government assistance programs that are available. Nobody want to say, "Hey, I received food stamps."
Mhm. Mhm.
They're not going to broadcast. Hey,
Yeah.
I received. Well, that's a secret thing.
Mhm.
Just don't tell nobody. But if you really want some groceries, come by the house, and because I get $500 worth of groceries, or
Mhm.
600, $1,000 worth of groceries, and my family can't eat that much.
Yeah. Mhm. Wow.
They don't mind getting it, but to be associated with getting it is the problem.
Mhm.
So they make that, which is actually, I don't know to say, it's a good thing to be able to get help if you
Yes.
need it.
Yes. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If you need it, it's a good thing.
Mhm.
But there's so many people that are abusing it, it turns out to be a bad thing. So the
Mhm.
government gives you that willingly. They have it available for you, but they make it seem like they're giving it to those that are looking for a handout. And
Mhm.
nobody wants to be associated with receiving handouts.
Mhm.
But the government does it every day. There's another thing. We throw immigrants or those that are immigrants or whatever you want to call it to be those that are coming taking our jobs. Here's the problem with that. I see nobody want to work.
Mhm.
How they gonna take the job that you don't want?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you can go to any uh, place of business and everybody is looking for workers.
Mhm.
So what job they taking if you're not there? You're at the house.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Captain Leonard, will you read that for me? This is Public Citizen.
I have some black female acquaintances that come to my discussion group. They have some very conservative points of view on immigration and lean towards the Republicans because they believe Hispanics are essentially the enemy of blacks. This is a Republican propaganda in effect, in my opinion.
Want to comment on that, Leonard?
Yes, I pretty much believe the same way. You get that from you got it from somewhere. You
Mhm.
got that notion from somewhere. And these, if you've watched commercials sponsored by Republican candidates or what have you, they send this message.
Mhm.
So if they can convince any one minority to fight against the other minority groups, knowing that the other side is in their best interest, they can split that vote
Mhm.
that way. It's one way, it's one reason, it's one thing to have an opinion about something. And then there's another uh, explanation for how people vote. If I
Mhm.
had a list of 100 things, would I make my decision based on the 99 or the one thing that was important? Some people
Exactly.
are so narrow minded
Mhm.
that they just look at that one thing. Let's say abortion.
Mhm.
Some people are just that narrow minded to make their voting decision based on their opinion of abortion.
Mhm.
Screw economics and everything else. I'm going to go for the side that's against abortion. So
Mhm.
the Republicans take a stance against abortion in order to get those people to vote for them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because despite the 99 other priorities,
Mhm.
they've convinced them about the one that they're passionate about.
Mhm.
And that's enough to get some people to vote against their own best interests.
Exactly. And Badger, we got another caller. I think we have Rico with us. I'm going to go to Rico in a second. But Badger, I looked at that page you sent to me. I took a look at it, and you were
All
right,
right,
man. It
hold
says
on, hold on.
Badger. Let me finish my thought, brother. You only know where I'm going. You only know what I'm gonna say.
Okay, go ahead.
On food stamps by race. It says food stamp by race. It has blacks 22.5%, Hispanics 21.8, other is 20.5, Mixed is 15.6. All races is 13.1. Asians 6.7, and whites is 6.4. That's what they're saying. That's what the numbers show in regards to the food stamps of people in Texas. So those are some very interesting numbers. I looked at those numbers. I said, "Wow, that's that those are some high numbers in the black community." But then, but let me go a little further and
Hold
look
on.
at Badger. Can I finish what I'm saying, brother?
Yeah.
Okay,
You're
and then I
talking.
said, let me go a little further and look at the population. Now, the population of whites in Texas is 73.9, 73.97. I'm sorry. Blacks and African Americans are 12.13. Others is 5.3. Asians is 4.0. Two or more races is 2.69. Native Americans is 0.50, and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island is 0.09. Now,
Hmm.
is real is real is to me. I think is very easy to have those numbers as they are when the population is as it is. It's easy if I only have 12.13 of the population, and if you have a big group of that population that's actually getting food stamps, it's going to look as though it's a large amount. But if you do it apples to apples, I think that it will be a lot different than what they're actually showing you. But go ahead, brother. What's on your heart?
That's what I was going to get to, because a lot of those are also old.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those numbers, when you look them up, for anyone that's listening, pay attention if they're actually doing it by who's getting it and
Mm-hmm.
compare it to the population.
Now this population
Because
is Texas population in 2021. I pulled up the current numbers, which is 2021.
hmm
Yeah.
so some of those websites are saying the reason it looks like African Americans and other races are getting more is because there's a smaller population, so it's going to look
Mm-hmm.
like they get more than white
Mm-hmm.
people do, because
Yes.
they're what's the word for that? They're not frauding any information. They're oh, what is that word?
Being deceptive.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're showing it based on population of each race and not how many are actually receiving it
Mm-hmm.
in general.
Yes.
Whites have
Mm-hmm.
a higher population, so therefore their percentage is going to look less.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the way they portray the information, you have to dig deeper to find the
Mm-hmm.
real information.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a
Exactly.
conversation with Leonard the other day. No, this is a couple months ago, where I called in because most people know I'm disabled,
Mm-hmm.
and to try to get my wife on some health insurance. Even went through the Health Care Act and everything. Health Care Act says I don't make enough money. Texas Medicaid says that I make too much money with Social Security.
Wow.
My wife is 29 years old and has no health insurance.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And we were literally told by a government official on the phone, if we were a different race, my wife would get it.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
So if now I'm saying that, I'm not trying to like separate anything, but what I'm saying is the betrayal, the way they portray information and the way people think is not helped at all by people like that. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're taught that if you're not a certain race, if you're not this and not that, you're not going to get these things. And to me, that teaches hatred, that teaches
Mm-hmm.
separation, that teaches false information,
Mm-hmm.
and it boils down to um, I wouldn't say intelligence, educated versus uneducated.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and also, Raheem, this is why critical race theory is being fought
Mm-hmm.
against
Mm-hmm.
by Republicans and those people who believe in white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
because these are the types of things in propaganda they sell to these people
What's going on, man?
that make them believe
Mm-hmm.
that this particular party supports their interests.
Exactly. Exactly. Rico, good morning. How you doing this morning?
Man, I can't complain. Grand Rising, everybody, man.
Hey, Grand Rising to you as well, brother. You've been listening to the conversation, man. What do you think? What do you think is really going on right now?
It's a brainwashing. It's a
Mm-hmm.
brainwashing, and it's simple. Really, when you think about it, um, as generations and eras pass, everything evolves. And when I
Mm-hmm.
say everything, I mean everything evolves,
Mm-hmm.
even science and math. And if you realize and really think about it, science and math, they are very closely related.
Mm-hmm.
They have formulas that you can actually use in both subjects. And those formulas are used against people. See, but you have to also realize with those formulas that there are critical contributing factors when you hear these statistics and stuff like that, the formulas that they use. But one of the formulas is adjectives. Imagine if they used humans instead of the word immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
We have 10,000 humans at the border trying to get in and have a better life.
Mm-hmm.
But see, when you say immigrants, you separate people. So when you start looking back in history, I know you asked a question earlier about low-income white people. Less educated white people still vote Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they brainwashed. They use fear tactics. They learn how to separate them and tell them, well, you know what, you're better than these slaves. See, it started a long time ago and it evolved. And they changed words. And little by little, the more you say the words like immigrants and all of those sort of deplorable words, it sort of sounds like slaves and niggers.
Mm-hmm.
So subconsciously, with what we've been taught through politics, that just through life, period, subconsciously people start looking at those as less people that's going to interfere with their rights, are going to take some food out of their mouth. So it started in the past with slavery. And when they freed the slaves, you had poor white people that listened to the propaganda from those that needed their votes to separate them and say, you know what, man, if you don't vote for us, them people are going to take your jobs, they're going to take your wives. And they even did the same thing with unions
Mm-hmm.
to divide the union. They start saying, well, you know what, you join the union, them black guys going to outwork y'all, and before you know it, they're going to be marrying your daughters.
Mm.
So little by little, they use fear tactics. And then they put labels on the people that they want you to go against so you can come and vote for them. So now, not only do you have poor white people that's going and voting Republican and vote for Trump. I mean, see, it was a real slick move because it seemed like every 8 or 12 years, they find another way to infiltrate the Democratic Party and start pulling voters. That's because if you think about it, it should never be close. It should never
Mm-hmm.
be close, those elections. But how are they close? Like Leonard
Mm-hmm.
said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
they find certain points to hit on, and then they'll distract you and make you focus on one single point:
Mm-hmm.
abortion, women's right there. I mean, LGBTQ, you name it. They'll go up and down the line, and they'll find a way to divide you. And so, this thing with immigration, you have black people actually jumping on board, not realizing that, man, these same people were using the same tactic against your elders,
Mm-hmm.
your ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Now here it is, you preaching the same talk.
Yeah.
You out here marching using the same slogans. We don't want immigration. They're going to take our rights. They're going to take our privileges. They're going to intrude on our livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm like, man, that doesn't sound right. But see, when you have drunk the Kool-Aid and been programmed to believe a certain thing, but you don't really pay attention to history, you don't understand how this thing has evolved. So now
Mm-hmm.
you're working on behalf of the enemy because you don't bought into capitalism or whatever. You don't bought into the American way, the American dream. You
Mm-hmm.
start preaching that same rhetoric about immigrants. But just imagine, like I said, if they just took the word immigrant and just said human.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Good deal. Good deal.
If they just use the word human,
Mm-hmm.
it would be a big difference. But see, you have all these different labels: lesbian, black, gay. You have all these different labels
Mm-hmm.
that people in power have put on others And they come up with more labels, Generation X's, baby boomers. They always find a way to categorize you, and we just bite into it. We take the labels and we use it and we run with it, not understanding that we're still talking about human beings. So that's the reason why I believe some of them actually vote against their best interests. Is because they've been brainwashed, not realizing that they have been told to fear people that they shouldn't fear. They might use guns. Oh man, I ain't nothing better than for a poor white man in Alabama to have his gun so he could go hunting. I ain't nothing better than for an old school black man, a white man, to say, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna vote Republican because they're trying to take all these 1980 and 1990 vehicles off the road. And that's the reason why you want to vote for a certain party.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you know, they use all these different things to brainwash us into thinking what's most important, but they really use the most simple aspects of your existence. With poor white people and poorly educated people that vote Republican, they're really just using their simple desires to get them over. I mean, imagine how many black people actually supported Trump, all those preachers. They was looking at money. They were looking at opportunity to get better and further along in the capitalistic world. So that divided us. They had us at each other's throat. Look at them coons.
Exactly.
Look at them preachers up there supporting Trump. Man, they had us divided, and it worked. So to me, like I said, every 8 or 12 years, they find some type of way to come in and divide black people because we don't have the same interests.
Exactly. Let me go to Pete. Pete, good morning. How you doing this morning?
How you doing this morning, AM Radio?
Hey.
Panel, listening audience.
Hey, doing good, brother. Know you've been listening, brother. What's on your heart?
It's an old group, believed from the Virgin Islands, roots reggae, word and power. They had a song that said, propaganda, 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 propaganda. News media, don't listen to propaganda. That's what I have to say. It's all propaganda. That's all it is. When you sit out here and talk to the average people, everyday nobody, you may be shocked at how clear their vision are. Their vision is the masses of people are not under an illusion. That's propaganda. Talk to them. Sit down and when you see them, engage them and have some real conversation with them. People see that there's massive problems with this structure and how it's being operated. That we're having rhetoric kicked to us all the time to keep the people divided, to keep the people from realizing that the society was structured to be ran by the people. And they want to keep the people from really stopping and realizing they have the collective power. So they run constant propaganda. That's what they run. They have us thinking that this is two-party system. It's a one-party system. The haves against the have-not. It's those that know and those that don't. And those that refuse to sit down and articulate and comprehend the games and the plays that are being ran on the masses of the people.
So it goes right back to economics, basically.
It goes economics, money, wealth, and power are what the foundational issues that are at the top of concern, and why propaganda is constantly ran. How long, once these people get elected, how many of them been up there for 30, 40 years? When they get in office and they stay there. And when there's an issue, they'll rise up with a bunch of rhetoric, but they don't ever get out of that seat. I'm talking across the board. How many of them leave? They only leave when they try to fight the system. They only leave when they buck at the system, and then they get attacked and assaulted and pushed out. It's propaganda to keep the people from coming into the reality that we possess the power collectively, and it's our will collectively that is to be orchestrated and administered. And that's the focal point that they don't want you to look at. Well, meanwhile, all of them are millionaires.
Mm.
Every last one. They pass a law for you and exempt themselves. What kind of mess is this? And we go for it. The whole country is made up from who? A gang of immigrants.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Whole bunch
Absolutely.
of immigrants. So
Mm-hmm.
we hold on. We're gonna talk about street gang violence and drugs, gang violence and the violence. How much violence do they orchestrate? What is violence? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they try to make you focus on murder and death. Well, hold on. Y'all got illegal pharmaceuticals pushing drugs that kill people, that wreak havoc with people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, law enforcement ain't nothing but a street gang.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
gonna tell me the Democrat Party and the Republican Party ain't a street gang? It ain't a gang. It's a gang. What it is, they gang
Mm-hmm.
banging too. What's up,
Mm-hmm.
Red? What's up, Blue? Man, we about that donkey life, homie. You know what it is? Elephant love over here, cuz. They gang banging. That's all that is.
Mm-hmm.
But they got you people. They're honorable individuals.
Exactly.
Many of these bar associates, this private club, they're criminals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
hijack your legal system. They
Five.
gang members,
Mm-hmm.
gang banging, terrorizing the
508
people.
508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. You could definitely be a part of the conversation. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Leonard, I see your face over there, brother. What's on your heart?
You can put my email in that little ticker you have running that number across there for Public Citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So we can start contributing to, he's doing this discussion on Saturday evenings, he says.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you could put my email up there for him, send me that information so I can try to get in on that.
Okay. Write your email in the chat box or this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, right in the chat box. That way I'll make sure I have it.
Because
And,
he's made that request before.
Mhm. Yes,
So
absolutely.
I want to make sure that we can show him some love on that particular
Absolutely.
thing.
Yes. Type it in now, put it right across the screen so we make sure he
Okay.
get it. VP.
Tell him to put his information. Tell him to put his information up there too, so we could tune in.
Okay. Hey, Public Citizen, put your information, put the information the contact information or how people could tune in to the broadcast that you're doing.
That's better. Okay, yeah, that's better. Yeah, do that.
Put your information up there and I put it on the screen. That way everybody have where they can actually come and support you. And I think you said it was on a Saturday. So we'll definitely make sure that we support you on Saturday. So put your information up there on the screen in the comment, and I'll put it up there, and so everybody be able to see it. Not just us, but everybody be able to see it and be able to come out and support you as well. VP, what's on your heart, brother?
Rico brought up a very good point when it came to the identification of what people identify as, why they move a certain way. So, if, for example, if you're out, say you out in the street, right? You know, and you're married, and you forget you're married, so you go out there just calling yourself by your name.
Mm-hmm.
My name, my name's VP. I'm VP. I'm VP. But all of a sudden you remember, you know what? I'm a husband. Then you have something to grab onto. And I think that's where Leonard and all them were coming on with the pride. Like you have this white pride or like the Blue Lives Matter that was going against the Black Lives Matter at one point. When people have identifiers, it allows them to become complacent in the responsibilities they have as a human being, as Rico was saying, is people forget that everybody's a human. You're no better than anybody else. You just because the way you were raised or how you felt, you grew up, makes you feel entitled or privileged over another person.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard brought up that abortion, and then it clicked. When he said abortion, I was like, that makes so much more sense to me. When you're just using just one thing. So like, for me, which is a good example, that's why I know I don't judge people because it is what it is. Like we got people in our church who only voted Republican because they had a stand against abortion. They ignored everything that Trump was doing. You know, they say, "Oh, we'll pray for our leader." That's because the Bible says. But you put him there. So if you had to pray for your leader beforehand, then God would probably told you not to put him in there, but he probably needed to be there so the world could actually see America for what it really was. I don't know if God works in mysterious ways, but like I say, when they ask me why I stick with the Democratic Party, a lot of times I say because out of all the years that I've been voting, this cannabis thing is the one that hits me the most. Because how can the nation be locking up minorities for a pharmaceutical drug now classified, and it's only because the government feels some type of way, or because the leadership that you have in place feels some type of way, and because conservatives hold a certain stance on what free thinking is, and mostly that's where that comes from, and not just the healing portion of it, then you get stuck. And that's why you see a big comparison in growth from the North and the South, because of the South, not just because of cannabis, but in general, there wasn't a progressive thinking. And although the Democratic Party has faltered, don't get me wrong, they are not nowhere where they were when I was growing up and felt like, but that was hypocritical too, because the Clintons wasn't toward black people like they made it sound like they were. But growing up, the Democratic Party is a little washed, and the Republican Party is a little on the right now. But I think because of the news media and the coverage that they have makes it feel that way. Like the thug versus what is it, mental illness. It's funny how they'll classify most black cases as a thug or a criminal intent, but then if you have somebody of another race or majority white, then it's a mental illness or they had a bad day. So you had especially the difference between the rioting, when you had people rioting over a statue and killing people, running over people over a statue of a man that you ain't even met in your life. Nobody even knows if he was really a hero. Just getting stories. People told you he was like that. He could have been doing whatever he did, a whole ton of other things, but you're arguing over a statue and an inanimate object that really has no value on this earth. Nothing, that statue brings no value to anything else but the ground that it was put on. And if the ground it was put on actually took away habitat for the animals that God made, so you're actually doing less. But if you're actually fighting for human rights and oppression and the critical race theory that someone brought up to actually hold people accountable, then it's an issue. Now you have to change the narrative, make it a label. You gotta make them insurgents. You gotta make them uneducated. You gotta make them animals and savages. Like we had that conversation I think a week and a half ago of calling people savages, because when you're savage, you're no longer a thinker. You're just working off an instinct. You only do the bare minimum to get the vibe. You don't know what it's like to be told or felt like it to have somebody's foot on your throat and make you feel like this is the way you're supposed to be. You can't contain a savage.
Exactly. All right, now
you don't get a wild dog and cage it.
Hey, preacher. Now, let me do my disclaimer. Now we got quite a few people on here. Want to make sure I'm able to circle around everybody. We're gonna go back into our 3 minute mark where each person talk about 3 minutes. Then we're gonna move on to the next person. Badger, what's on your heart, brother?
I mean, I can be a savage, so I can agree with that.
Huh?
I was like, I can be a savage, so I can agree with that statement.
Okay, good deal.
I've stirred up a lot of trouble in the past because of my research in history and my heritage and things like that. And the fact of how much I've been shut down and threatened is insane. Like when you're sitting there trying to, make sure everyone has equal rights across the board. And the untold stories of history, wanting to find them and, make sure they're public. So people don't believe just what's presented to them, that there's information out there that can broaden their horizon. And the amount of ridicule and hatred and things that I've met, like in the opposing force, of everything from ignorance to just straight up, we don't want that out there, so therefore we're not going to let you put that out there. It exists. And as I've gotten older, I'm sometimes I'm scared to share things I've learned, and other times I'm not. It depends on the topic. And the amount of separation tactics that is still implemented to this day, until people finally wise up and realize that the tactics are to keep us from being a collective force of one, and let go of some of these old teachings and perceptions of hatred and we're different because our skin's different nonsense, and actually come together as one, we're not going to be able to change this world as long as we're letting things like that control us.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Curtis, I think you had something, Curtis.
Yeah, well, I got 3 minutes, so let me get this thing right real quick. First off, I'm gonna deal with the numbers you threw out. Okay, statistically, we had this conversation yesterday where I was telling everybody that statistically you can have $1 in a bank. If I know the right formulas, like Rico said, you gotta understand what's going into the formulas, what's the variables. If I know the right formula, I can make it look like you got $1 billion in the bank. I kid you not. If you get a good statistician, they can skew anything, right? Because words can just completely skew a question. But I'm gonna deal with the fact of the numbers you put out. So what's amazing to me is they'll throw those numbers out there, and they throw that 22% are getting, as opposed to 6% getting, right?
Yes.
But they won't tell the people they won't tell the people what the populational numbers was, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna make it simple for you. I'm gonna make it simple for your listeners. So if the population at 6% that we're talking about at 6%, right? Which is white, right?
Yes.
Is 1 million people, right? And the population of black is only 10,000 people, right? The 6% that they're talking about will still either balance out evenly or will exceed the number of black folk that's getting
absolutely
stamps on the 22%.
Absolutely.
Do you get what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
If the population is larger on one spectrum, but the percentage is smaller, then their overall number may be higher. You understand? But they don't put out that populational number. They put out the percentage number of those receiving a benefit. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And Leonard was right that they use, like the dog whistle or whatever, or certain keywords to say certain things. The other thing is, at the end of the day, when I vote out, and with this, when I vote I follow parties according to what type of legislation have they put out. Have they put out legislation that's beneficial to the masses or beneficial to my group or sect, right? So if the Republican Party put out legislation that was beneficial to my people and my belief, then I would vote with them. Just like the Republicans who actually, just like the Lincoln Republicans, they were all abolitionists. I'm in complete agreement with the idea of the abolishment of slavery.
Exactly. We had 3 minutes there, Kurt.
You see what I'm saying?
Let me.
My 3 minutes is up.
Yes, sir. Let me go to Rico. Rico, what's on your heart, brother?
Yeah, I agree with what everybody is saying. Curtis hit on it again with that. The formula that's involved. It's funny how even though the system is complicated, they can play on our most simple emotions and get us to move in certain directions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this system of classification, sooner or later, it turns into a lifestyle. You ever paid attention to how people can have certain athletic teams and it separates them to the point of where they kill each other? Somebody killed the other one because their team lost or won. It turned into an argument. You created some type of chaos and confusion, but then also you created a spirit of competition. Somewhere somebody told me something dysfunctional one time before. Competition is good.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Competition is good. So when you bite into that lifestyle, dog eat dog world, mind the business that pays you.
Mm-hmm.
When you bite into those philosophies, you start living a certain lifestyle that requires you to be separated from other individuals because you're better than them over there. That causes chaos and confusion.
Yes, it does.
Only dysfunction and evil can only survive when chaos and confusion is involved. So they create that narrative. Now, VP said something huge. Certain people do certain things and they go back and they start finding out all the childhood traumas that cause this, and maybe it will give them some leniency when it comes to court. But when it comes to somebody that look like me, we super predators, and then we put a man in office that said he didn't care. Remember now, you know who they associate super predators with, just like they associate immigrants with Haitians and Latinos.
Yes.
Super predators are associated with people that look like me, that don't come from the best of neighborhoods, that don't come from the best of environments. And I don't care what made them super predators. That means I don't care about the contributing factors. I just want them off the street.
Yeah.
So we'll leave the contributing factors out there so we can put more of them in prison, and y'all can make some money off of that. Oh, but when it comes to white people, we got affluenza. We got the fact that he was molested when he was young by his older brother and all these different things. You good old boy. So, Johnny seems like he could be a good guy. He reminds me of my cousin's son or my nephew. I'm going to give him an opportunity to go in here and serve his time and come out and be a better productive citizen. But somebody look like us super predators. We don't care what contributed to them being there. And guess what? Who put him in office? The same man. Ain't that propaganda something serious, ain't it? So here it is. We run around here, man. We don't know which way we're going. We're going to lose either way it goes. We're going to win either way it goes. We just don't know who is really for us. But see, that's that lifestyle. Some of us have chosen the lifestyle where we'll say, well, we're going to ignore that because this is the other thing that I want. The other thing that I need. So like I said, when you think about the team aspect, think about the Alabama Auburn, think about the Georgia Tech, think about the Pittsburgh to Baltimore, think about all those rivalries that are created. It seems harmless. Seems very harmless, but when you put that energy of the spirit of competition out there, you have to have somebody to compete against.
Exactly.
So when you have to have somebody to compete against, it's hard for you to understand that there are millions of people, human beings without health care in the United States. It's hard to comprehend that there are tens of thousands of immigrants at the border, not immigrants, human beings.
Wrap it up, Enrico.
At the border trying to escape the cartel-ridden country. So, we are brainwashed and we have to wake up from that.
Exactly. Leonard, what's on your heart, brother?
Just listen, because all the points like the public citizen just made as well. Critical race theory is important for this reason. It's the impact that racism has had on every facet of our being American. It's even in elections. It's in commercials. It's everywhere. Race plays a part of us. Now, unlike a lot of people, I'm not into the colorblind thing. I see color. I just don't discriminate against people. I mean, I see color, but I don't use it to keep you from living in a certain neighborhood. I see color, but I don't believe you should starve to death if you don't have a job. So it's the people who are racist that are, and then America needs to come to grips with the fact that you're still around 50-50, which is very sad. That's why these elections are so close, because you have just as many hateful people as you do decent people. So you're
Mm-hmm.
about 50-50 when it comes to that particular variable.
Mm-hmm.
If I can convince you to hate someone, I can probably convince you to vote against them.
Yes, sir.
If I can make you believe that I'm doing what's right to maintain the superiority of your race, then I can convince you to vote for me.
Mm-hmm.
But now that conversation changes when you add cancer to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Come on.
So now what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Because cancer don't care what color you are.
Mm-hmm.
You still need health care, and
Yep.
you need the best health care. You don't need the health care just reserved for someone you don't like. You
Mm-hmm.
need the best health care that you can get. And so this
Mm-hmm.
is why it was such a noble notion to separate healthcare and employment.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when it used to be like that? People
Yeah.
who had jobs had healthcare. People who
Mm.
didn't have jobs had Medicaid or something like that, which was given to them. And you know how some people say the disparity in treatment. Poor
Mm-hmm.
people have a harder time even getting transplants. Matter of fact, if you live in a state like Georgia, you have to have 5,000 to get
Mm-hmm.
on the list,
Mm-hmm.
or we can
Wow.
just convince you to be on dialysis for the rest of your life until you die, because someone has made the determination that because you're low income, you
You
don't
don't.
deserve
Yep. Yep.
to live without the dialysis. You can go longer, but we're gonna save the kidneys for the people with private insurance.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So
Wow.
you're always dealing with a notion of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can believe you, somebody else is gonna take it all and ain't gonna be none left. I can convince you to vote to make black people sit on the back of the bus,
Mm-hmm.
go to the back of the restaurant, live in certain neighborhoods. This is how things get started that way. So we have to
Exactly.
always understand 50-50. You still
Mm-hmm.
50-50. Hateful, decent.
Mm-hmm. Good. Let me go to Toussaint. Donald Toussaint. Good. What's on your heart, brother?
No, I
I
was
see
just
Leonard wrapped it.
listening.
Looked at that clock and wrapped it up for me. Go ahead, Toussaint.
No, I was just listening to the way that things are was done in the last few years
Mm-hmm.
when the previous president, first of all, he said them thugs and rapists,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have to shut off the border from them. The
Mm-hmm.
China virus only mostly affects African Americans, putting people in category to say, oh, and just think now if it's a China virus that mostly affects African Americans, the rest of them they're like, well, I don't have anything to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you creating a panic that people don't even realize.
Mm-hmm.
So and now the only ones you have to worry about with that statement is the Chinese and the African American. They the problem.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
You notice when everybody's trying to get in this country, they block off the Cubans and the Haitians.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that
Mm-hmm.
so?
Yes, sir.
So I'm just listening to the conversation, enjoying it, and that's all I wanted to say.
Good deal. Good deal. Pete, what's on your heart, brother? Give me 3 minutes. Pete, you there? Pete over there fighting with that doggone mute button. Pete over there fighting with that mute button. Badger, talk to me.
I'm just like I put in our chat. You know, they need that $500 for that salt water and and needle prick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it the stories that like I've come across through my research and stuff, everything from like community health care and things like that, and You know, some people that actually got it, and as a town or city, they worked together to come up with a plan to make it where the hospitals was based. People paid toward the hospitals so everyone could afford it, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what your income was. So they don't need health insurance in those places because everyone pays yearly, or I think it's either monthly or yearly, something like that, a certain amount for the doctors, for the nurses, for the medication, for the equipment. So their stuff is, you know, insanely cheap. You know, salt
Mm-hmm.
water is the saline stuff is what is normal cost. You know, it's like $5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you take that logic, why would corporations, money hungry people that's up in our capital right now, want us to come together to do things like that? Because it shows that we don't need them.
Mm-hmm.
We can govern ourselves. We're human beings. That's the whole point of choice and freedom of will, freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know how to punish bad people. You know, the whole it's if, however, if you take a population and over hundreds of years, thousands, I'm sorry, I'm wrong on that one. Since 1000 AD,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you take a race of people and don't educate them for 1,000 years, after 1,000 years, their children ain't gonna know any better than what they're told by their masters.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the only thing that has been our saving grace is the internet,
Mm-hmm.
because it allows people like us who woke up, who've listened, who's paid attention, because our families didn't. Some of us had family members that just didn't follow the rest of the sheeple. A place to be able to voice things, to put things out there. And some of us are considered
Mm-hmm.
conspiracy theorists. However, if you look at things, look at history, a man has been a slave to another man for a very long time. It's not a racial thing. The most recent is a racial thing,
Mm-hmm.
but throughout history, there's always been a master and a slave to some degree.
Mm-hmm. Good
So this
deal.
is a
Good deal.
mentality that's been around for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good. That's good. Let me go to VP. What's on your heart, brother?
I was thinking back, I'll be fast for a minute. Back in 2008, when Barack Hussein Obama was elected president, I think that's when we finally got the first taste of. That was the first time I ever noticed that there were uneducated whites, and we still get this argument today, like how it sums up everything from the propaganda to the name calling or identifiers to the formulas they use to get to where we are today. Because when President Obama was elected, that's the first time you really start to see old world hate in a new world, and you got to see how uneducated people were by the social media influence. And when you had your elite who don't really care about the poor, started to use social media as a formula to use identifiers and trap people into one way of thinking. Like I ask people all the time, like, what happened to when Obamacare came out and we were supposed to be killing all the old people? Or when all the guns, he was attacking the Second Amendment and they were supposed to steal all the guns from everybody. Or healthcare was going to be so crazy out of price that nobody was ever going to get it. Everybody was losing all these jobs, but they were going up. What happened to the fact that it came on national TV and said there'll be a one-term president? It influenced the New World Republicans and Democrats to boot out a lot of that old world thinking and put in a more severe, harsher regime that's in there now. So now that's why you got your Creons and Judons and you see the Confederate flag getting raised again, because a lot of that, the New World Republicans are still baited off of pure just racial hate just for an individual. Like nobody really, like I still ask people why they don't like President Obama. What did he really do? Besides be the president and be a different color that you ever seen run it. And the formula worked so well that when women had a chance to run this nation, they voted against them. They voted against a woman just because she was a woman. And that all ties into the critical race theory, even though if try to pinpoint one way or the other, white men also were putting down white women and holding them accountable and making them feel just as less insignificant as they were minorities. And that's a lot of that's a thinking that people have to look at the whole view of what this race of the government all ties in together.
Exactly. Rico, talk to me, brother.
Yeah, everybody hitting it on the head, man. I mean, that's really what critical race theory is going to teach. It's going to actually show you the critical contributing factors that causes the dilapidation in this country amongst races. But, you know, to really nip this thing in the bud, man, see, the thing is, we done bought into a system over here to survive that we got to play the game. And when somebody designs a game for you to play, you got to play by their rules. Only difference is this game that has been designed, our survival depends on it. So imagine, I'm going to tell you this how unnatural this sounds. Having group economics. You're separating somebody, right?
Yeah.
That means we need to make sure our group has, and we don't care nothing about y'all group, whether y'all humans or not. We just are not, we're a different group, so we can't be concerned with y'all. We need to make sure we get this. See, we all are in this country competing for survival. Let marinate on your mind for a second. Human beings dying to cross this line into this country to compete for survival because competition is healthy. There's so much opportunity in America. Yeah, a lot of opportunity in America. And that's why some of the worst people you could think of want to come over here because they love this system, like Indians, like Chinese. That's why they like to come over here, because they have a system of classification that works great in their country, but not as good as ours. That caste system in India, oh man, it's terrible. But they love it over here because it works even better. See, it's a system of entitlement that comes after you have competed with other human beings. See, somebody took that system of classification that came with the plant and animal kingdom and they perverted it.
Yes.
They took that system of classification and said, well, okay, now let's turn people against each other. Let's tell people that we are better because we got blonde hair and blue eyes. Let's tell people that we are better and more superior because we got guns, gunpowder, and weapons. And we could teach them a better way of life, even though thousands of years ago they came over here and told us to stop sleeping with cows and goats and chickens in the house. And they told us to bathe, wash our nasty stinking tails. They taught us about hygiene, but you know what? We more superior than them. We're going to find out where they got all this gold that looks so good, and we're going to go take it. And from now on, we're going to create a system where the victor, the victor dictates what history is and what they enjoy the spoils.
Yes, sir.
So now we in the system of competition, and we love it because we love America. And see, the one thing about it, if you want to be American, and if you want to come over here and succeed, you better be ready to compete. But I don't think Jesus told nobody that. I don't even think Jesus walked around teaching people to compete with each other. He taught people to do what? See, we got this thing in existence called third world countries. How does that exist in 2021? You got people flying to space for fun. Then you got people living under a title of a third world country.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, we supposed to love it. America the great, America the beautiful, and people coming over here to be a part of this dysfunction that has you competing with other people for survival.
Absolutely.
Man, we in a bad place.
Absolutely. Let me go. We got. I want to thank. I want to thank Inner Beauty. She's actually on one of the apps that we're using here, man. She's showing us a lot of love this morning. I definitely appreciate it, and thank you for sharing the broadcast. And you can definitely be a part of the conversation. All you have to do is give us a call at 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. Again, 508-924-3521. Kurt, what's on your heart, brother?
You know, in terms of the idea of critical race theory, you know, I remember we had a broadcast one time where we was talking about how to trump or thwart racism in America.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that we had all came to an agreement that in order to thwart racism in America, that the curriculum has to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they're fighting so hard against critical racism is because if critical racism goes as a tool to be taught in middle school and high school, now what happens is the American Caucasian male has to be held accountable
Mm-hmm.
for the atrocities that they've done. Now, the case is already in the UN right now. As we talk, as we speak, they are evaluating America on human rights issues in terms of Black and brown people.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that if that ruling comes back in our favor, we all going to be getting a nice little check and or getting the opportunity where our kids can go to school for free and so forth and so on. Some colleges have moved forward with that because they made so much money off of slavery and has offered free college, free tuition, free everything to these descendants of these slaves who were utilized and or exploited
Mm-hmm.
for the financial gains of that college. That's number one. Number two, when we think in terms of Trump and in terms of his administration, and when we think in terms of the last 20 years, what we must consider is the Republican Party has utilized three things to alter the vote. One we are all very, very familiar with, sex.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay very close attention, I'm going to give you the playbook. If you pay very close attention, every year, about 365 days prior to an election, Monica Lewinsky comes back up. Pay attention to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time, about 365 days before any election, general, presidential, senatorial election, congressional elections, about 365 days, Monica Lewinsky's name comes back up. Sex. The sex is always portrayed on the Democratic Party. The sexual scandals and misdeviancies is always portrayed on the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
What we don't pay attention to is those same people that put Clinton up on a sex scandal with Monica Lewinsky. Every single one of them, all six of them, were adamantly involved in sex scandals while they was prosecuting our president.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to go here. We're going to move forward. So we got sex. The next thing they always throw up is immigration. If you want to solve the immigration problem, I said this on a post on Facebook. You want to solve the immigration problem, go into these Fortune 500 companies and start handing out indictments for wrongful hiring practices. Because we know that the same guy that was president before this president now, we know that he was hiring illegal immigrants right there in Mar-a-Lago. We know that. We got the documentation.
Yeah, 3 minutes, Kurt.
The hiring manager admitted it.
Mm-hmm.
So we not going, oh, they coming. Well, why they coming? If you tell me that I got to live with my family of four in a room where one room is every room in the house, and I can go across the river, and I can live in a house where it's 2 bedrooms, me and my wife got a bedroom, I can go from making $3 a month to making $500 a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go because I want to survive.
Good deal. Kurt, 3 minutes, brother. Yes, sir. 3 minutes. I got to keep.
Last but not least.
Mm-hmm.
Last but definitely not least, then we deal with the object of mere hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say that it's not good to have an abortion, but it's okay for you to murder this guy. And you stand in yourself on the grounds that abortion is murder.
Okay.
Well, when you stick that needle in that boy arm
Mike,
and you take him out of here,
wrap it up, brother.
I'm
We gotta
good.
go. We gotta move on, brother. We
I'm
gotta
done,
move
bro.
on.
I'm done. Man, you guys have a good day. I have a long day ahead of me, man. I love y'all. Talk to y'all later.
Hey, talk to you soon. Pete, are you back with us? Pete, are you back with us? Captain Leonard, you there? There you go. There you go. What's on your heart, brother?
Well, I'm just listening. I think people slowly will come around, and some people don't want to come around. I mean, mostly it would be beneficial, as one person said, you have to get men out of control that don't care about nobody but themselves.
Yes, sir.
And on the average, look at Mitch McConnell, for instance. He's never been for anyone but himself. But look how often he's looked upon as the leader of the party.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's about. And it's not.
How long has he been there, Leonard? How long has he been in?
I'm not sure, but he's been there a very long time, and I'm not against term limits or anything. The representative of that area lets me know what those people are like.
I'm actually for the term limits. I'm for it. I think this should be there for X amount of time. You can't be there 20, 30 years.
If you're elected that many times, then that means that the people are electing you. So the people must be happy with you.
Do you think? And I keep saying something, I'm actually cutting into your time. I don't want to do that to you. So I'm gonna make sure that you get your 3 minutes. But do you think that an individual could lose touch, man? Just sometimes you gotta hand it down to them. I would not want to see Michael Jordan get out there and trying to play basketball today with them young guys that's out there now, man. You have to pass it on to the younger generation. Let them do it.
I mean, if he can compete,
Michael
he
Jordan
should be allowed to compete.
He ain't gonna compete, man. He ain't gonna compete.
But if he tries, we see what happened when he tried before. What happened?
Yeah.
But we have to get decent. We have to establish a continuity of decent leadership. And the way we do that, and because I am all for a participative government, people have to participate. You get what you put in. You still have this split because the nation is still split.
Yeah.
That should be the gauge of how great you are. Where do you stand on these various issues? Well, how can half the world look at us now and say, well, half of them got to be crazy because look who they elected.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
half of them have to be crazy, at least half plus one.
Yes, sir. Half plus one.
So let's not just jump over this fact that we still have very close federal elections when it comes to the president. That's on that very high level. If you go down or start to go down into the state and local levels, you see a little difference because the people are much closer to the issue. So rhetoric doesn't work as well in the smaller the community is. See, the federal, the entire United States is large, so you can just throw stuff out. It's coming from everywhere. But say my little county here where I live at in Georgia, smaller population compared to that. So I have to operate a little different. If I tell people in your local area, if you're tired of nasty streets, elect a person who's has cleaning up the streets on their agenda.
Exactly.
That's what you do. If there's an interest that you have related to the school in your area, a lot of times there's not going to be too many things at the federal level that deal with your elementary school, as close as your board and how they administer the budget.
Good deal.
So there are certain things you look at certain levels.
Yes.
People use people you trust as well. Anything to get you to vote for them. Now, what they do after you get their vote is based on their character.
Badger, what's on your heart, brother? And I'm Rico, don't stand by you. I'm coming to you next. Badger, what's on your heart?
I was listening to what Leonard was saying. It's the whole thought process of things has always just confused me, because it's people seem to either understand what's going on or they want to blame everyone else for what's going on. And it's It's wild. You know, there's certain phrases that I've grown so tired of hearing that sometimes I just stay away from things. um, it, I'm just the older I'm getting, the more tired I'm getting of certain concepts, mentalities, and just wish people would pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's the information's out there. The not It's not hard to gain it. All you need to really be able to do is read. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand, you have a thesaurus, you have dictionaries, you probably have someone around you that actually understands it. Ask them a question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's true. That's true.
Now, are they going to have the willpower or make the choice to do so? I don't know. Some people
Mm-hmm.
say it's because of how they're raised. Some people blame this or do this. And I'm like, once they become an adult, they make the choice. And if they want to choose to be ignorant and blame everyone else for what's going on and their problems, that's on them. Their choice is to let everyone else control their life instead of God.
Mm-hmm.
So I I'm sorry if what I'm saying is kind of vicious, but Jesus didn't let no one else control him. He
Yeah.
lived, he served as a vessel and did what he was supposed to do. And yes, they might have killed him, and maybe that's what people are worried about. Well, if I speak out and help everyone else like Jesus did, or if I walk like Jesus did, I'm going to be killed just like he was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if everyone walked that path, I'm pretty sure at least one out of every 10 people is going to be able to take out a lot more of them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. Now, Rico,
Yo,
I'm changing up, man. I'm changing up for a second, man, because I gotta talk to you about this, man. We ain't gonna spend too much time on it. 11-2, brother.
oh man, you should have saved that for the end, man. You got a good conversation going on. You want to bring in that mess?
Then we said that mess. Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you something. It was mess. It was absolute garbage. But what do we need to do in this day and time to jump over this hurdle that we have right now, Rico?
Pay attention to the details. Like Baptist just hit on pretty much what I just said.
Mm-hmm.
We are under the rules of an unnatural order. So I said a second ago, I don't think Jesus promoted human beings competing against each other. He promoted unity,
Mm-hmm.
togetherness, love, right? Compassion, empathy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's hard for you to really be competitive against other human beings competing for resources or survival when you have compassion and empathy for them. So, we living under a double standard in
Mm-hmm.
this same country that says that we are one nation under God, under the type of government that was actually created from the church.
Mm-hmm.
Most laws came from church rule.
Yes, it did.
They were dictating a standard.
Mm-hmm.
So now these same laws, they come with that double standard. Now, we got a system that really the only way it survives is by divide and conquer. And so with that being said, I mentioned that a little bit earlier too. You create classification and you find a way to get people to start participating in certain groups that have interests away from other groups. You only want to think about your simple interests, primitive interests. Now you got a divided nation.
Mm-hmm.
But what if everybody had the same mindset? Not only what would Jesus do, but what if everybody really just stood for fighting against wrongdoing and evil forces? It would be hard to be a 50-50 country. It would be very hard. But see, people won't wake up from that because they have so many different things that they're distracted by, or so many other things that they desire, that sometimes they have to allow a little wrongdoing to happen. That's why for capitalism to survive, it got to be some poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can't have health care. Why we won't get rich if we give people stuff for free? I hate socialism.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put a name on that too. Even though if you hear the word socialism and you really think about it, there should never be anything negative. There should be no aspect ever in the history of mankind where you could take the word social and make something negative out of it. But that's what they did. Somebody found a way to do it. So you know what I realized, we can't do no better. We don't know no better.
Exactly.
And some people don't get it till later on. Badger said it a second ago. The older you get, the more angry you get. And that's because the more you wake up and the more you realize you participated in a bunch of nonsense you believed in. You know how many people join the military and hate that they did it afterwards? Hate that they bought into patriotism. Hate that they bought into fighting for our country. You know how many people hate that they did that because they feel like, man, they bought into something corrupt. They felt like they joined a gang.
Exactly. Yep.
You got people like Marines that are taught to run up hills and die for their country. But then if they go up that hill and come back alive, they still a nigga. So, I mean, we get caught up in playing this game, and then you wake up and you're so angry after you wake up because you realize that you bought the deception. So, that's a lot of what the confusion and anxiety, a lot of anger comes from, because people are waking up the older that they get. They realize that we are moving in an unnatural order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go to VP. VP, what's on your heart, brother?
I will amen to Rico and the Badger. I definitely was that military guy that got out and was like, I don't know what I even did that for. I mean, I got the free schooling and stuff when you got home, and especially during the black anger uprise and all these people that I was in the desert with were on Facebook talking about these kids deserve to die. I was like, I don't even know why I fought for this country, because now I want to do you in. You the real insurgent. But to go also to what Rico was saying, Jesus, I was trying to think of what a quote that Jesus would use that fits with that. And the first thing that popped in my head is, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And when you're teaching unity, when that rich man said that he would give up everything, or that he wanted to follow Jesus, and Jesus told him, well, go home, give up everything, and then come back to me, and then you can follow me. And he said, no, I can't give up that. I can't give up my riches. And that doesn't always mean to be rich with money. You can be rich with pride, rich with jealousy, rich with hatred for someone. And if you're not willing to give that up, then how can you be in any type of union? And that's where Leonard is really pinpoint to, is this a nation can't come together because everybody's rich with something. Even though you may not have all the money, you're rich with something. And it's keeping you from enjoying the unity of what God has for us on this earth. Or if we just kept it in America, what he had for this nation when it was built up. As a nation of all immigrants, that we somehow completely forget that it was built that way.
That's good. That's good. Captain Leonard?
I think people understand it's just to get people to participate, more people to participate in the process, which is the reason why we dedicate so much time to voter registration and getting people to the polls, because we do know that if more people go to the polls to vote, the outcomes would be much better in terms of agendas that promote the masses of society, as opposed to those things that are just narrow. Now, I am by no means at all a bleeding liberal. That whole concept that anything goes or whatever, that's extreme.
Okay.
I believe in government, but I believe in participative governments, the right of the governed to choose who governs them. So there are certain issues that are important from a unity perspective, but then there are things that are just important from an individual perspective as well. So we have to be considerate of all things and look for the broader agendas that provide more of a safety net for some and a open opportunities on the other hand. I'm not one of these type of people that believe, I'm not a person that believes that everybody gets the same. I'm not that guy. but you should at least get out what you put in. You should at least be treated fairly. You should at least have equal access to justice.
Mm-hmm.
So I am for opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
but I will not force you to do anything that you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want a big house, you don't have to have a big house.
Yeah.
If you don't,
Yeah.
if you want one, you can get one though.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to stop other people from having big houses just because you believe that that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
That you should get in what you put out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, excuse me, you should get out what you put in.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So this whole notion of equality and everything has to be looked at from the proper perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Equality is not everybody gets the same thing. That's not equality.
Mm-hmm.
If you make 50,000, then automatically you should get 50,000. Everybody should make the same.
Mm.
It's
No.
not fair. That's
No.
not fair.
Mm-mm.
The person that works 40 hours a week is working more hours, right? And they're working
Mm-hmm.
more hours to get more money.
Yep.
That opportunity is there for them. But guess what? If you don't want to work overtime, you don't have to work overtime.
Go home.
You go home. Because maybe you don't want the maximum amount that someone else is willing to work for.
Yeah.
So it's absurd to think that everyone should have the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
As an activist, even, I don't have an issue with income inequalities.
Mm.
Because in no world, mathematically, should everyone have the same.
Mm.
Brain
Okay.
surgeons should make more than fast food workers
Mm-hmm.
by the nature and complexity and the investment to be able to do that.
But see, the thing about it, what you're missing is if I'm a fast food worker and I'm giving you the right kind of food, I'm keeping you away from the brain surgeon. So yeah. Anyway.
So let's not be so ridiculous to believe
exactly.
in this notion that everyone should be equal like that.
Mm-hmm. Good deal.
You
Good
know,
deal.
and what made socialism a bad name is that thing called the Cold War. That's where that comes from. Soviet Socialist Republic. That was our enemy. And the world were divided in the West, then those people that supported the others, NATO, then you got the people over here that supported the East and the communist bloc, and then everybody else was a third world country because you didn't support the Western world or the Eastern world. First, second, and now third.
Third world. Yeah, exactly. Tucson, what's on your heart, brother?
No, man, I just decided to come on back. We where we at with because we live in this society that's just. Maybe I should just ask: are we jacked up and hopeless, or is there any hope?
Well,
in our democracy.
I was about to ask the team, but I'm gonna go to Rico. Rico, what do you say to that question?
Well, I sort of want to respond.
Go ahead.
The way Leonard said,
and
then it's probably going to apply somewhat to what Donald just asked. In general, what Leonard is saying is true. In general, the opportunity should be there for everybody. But when you take them opportunities and doing them now to where people got to compete for them, you got a problem. When you got overtime at a job, then you start seeing, you know what? Everybody else wants some too. So now I'm fixing to make them compete for it. Whoever kissed my butt the most gonna get the overtime. Now you got people mad because the other one getting overtime. Why he getting all this overtime? I want some too. So you know that spirit of competition is still negative. Yeah, true enough, the opportunity should be there for everybody. Then it's up to you to take advantage of that opportunity. And nobody's saying you just give it to people and make them equal. No. Just don't limit the opportunities to have people competing to survive, because you may have other people that actually deserve those opportunities. But now they trying to cut the other man's head off because they worried about, they count his pockets. They looking at the house he just went and got. Well, I want some overtime too. So you creating that spirit of competition. So yeah, in general, that would be the way. Just like with joining the military or going and being in government, you got an in general sense of the way you think things go. But somewhere, when I was young, somewhere there was somebody in the class with me, in a classroom somewhere, they saw the same history that I saw. And their minds went into a different direction. They went along with the class curriculum, but somewhere they thought to themselves, man, now I was taught that these rules apply. The president should have some type of honor and integrity. And he said he have rules that he has to abide by, but somebody wrote their own rules. Andrew Jackson. So now here it is, we have these regulations that we're supposed to go by. This thing that a president's supposed to have called honor and integrity, like Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, probably the most honorable president I could think of. But people still ridicule him. They don't respect the best, the most honorable one. But you look at Andrew Jackson, then you think about Clinton. Clinton messed up his reputation, had the little oral sex thing going on. The office of the president is supposed to have some type of integrity. But then Donald Trump come in before he even get to be president and say, you know what, I'll grab him by the coochie and kiss him in the mouth, just walk up to him. Why? I kill somebody in the middle of Manhattan and still get elected.
Exactly.
Because he understood that somewhere there are people that make the rules. They don't have to abide by them. And so you have those people that participate in government. They're not going to drink the Kool-Aid that the rest of us drink about just participating and being involved. But they want to go in and they want to use all the avenues they can to overturn it, to make the rules apply to the way they want them to interpret it. And so, we have to always be cognizant of that side of government too. Because in a lot of instances, there have been a double standard with how the rules apply, with the expectations of how a politician is supposed to carry themselves. And we don't consistently look at those things. So that's something that always has to be remembered. We have an in general way of handling things, but when it comes to democracy, there's a double standard, and some people understand the in general way that you buy into it, but the other way that you go in and you flip it upside down to fit your narrative.
Absolutely.
Or your agenda.
Good. Tucson, did it answer your question?
Yeah, I just what I thought about it. I don't know if this has anything to do with it. When there are some people that never march, but they always get what they want. And then they manipulate and talk other folks into doing things that they don't have to do to kind of pump it up. Let me tell you what I thought about. I'll meet y'all down there at the White House,
yes,
all
sir.
of you patriots. At the Capitol.
Yes.
Did it go?
Man, he wouldn't have made a sandwich. That man wouldn't have made a sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, has somebody to make a sandwich for him.
But then there were those that he talked them into going down there. While he held his Bible upside down.
Wow. Wow. You got a point. Badger, what's on your heart, brother?
Pretty much the same as I was saying earlier. It's all boils down to the same thing. One of the things to me that I hear the most is that's always like baffled me is it's the devil's fault. Because and if you look at the teachings and stuff, all the stuff that the devil tempted Jesus to do, what choice did he make? So it's always confused me personally. To hear people blaming this entity for all the bad stuff because of a thought of sin or a situation that they were in. Why not look at it as a lesson? You know, I made a choice to stay in this situation, or due to my environment, I felt stuck. I couldn't get out. But then something happens and they are able to get out, you know. But a lot of times they'll still blame this entity and not give thanks for the fact of the experience to be able to have the knowledge and experience to help someone else that's in that situation possibly get
Mhm.
out too.
That's good.
So, like, to me, a lot of things boil down to perception and thought process and individual knowledge and acceptance of who they are in this world of creation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's when I was younger, I didn't know. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
to turn to God, to turn to Satan. I didn't know. I grew up in a
Mm-hmm.
very bad home, but my grandma always taught me about the heart. Taught me we were all of one thing. And those seeds that she gave me, once I got out of that environment, stuck with me because it was a positive force.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Over
Good.
time, that positive force overrid my trauma. Do I still deal
Mm-hmm.
with trauma every day, every moment of my life? Yes, I'm scared to death to share my intelligence and all this other stuff because of the abuse I had growing up. But I've had to work hard not to choose to let that control me.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. We got a few more minutes before we get out of here. If you want to be a part of the conversation, please give us a call. Again, 508-924-3521. Captain Leonard, talk to me, brother.
Man, I think everybody made some very good points. And like I say, it all translates in. You got to get a part of something and start growing a
Mm-hmm.
decent message. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to get with a collective of some type to push more decency.
Mm-hmm.
Decency not related to these little biases that you have against people, but from a
Mm-hmm.
human perspective, from a
Yes.
humane perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we must also make sure that yes, we need some people, but we need a safety net. That's what makes the country so much better.
Yes.
Is a social safety net.
Mm-hmm.
So at least basic minimum care is provided.
Mm-hmm.
Basic minimum care, it looks like welfare. Basic minimum care looks like a lot of the different social programs that we have here in America that they don't have in other places. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is why people are coming here. If this was a horrible place, people would stop coming here. People come here because you still can come here and get your kids an education.
Yep.
You can still get a job. You can
Mm-hmm.
still make money without worrying about, like, say, for instance, people fleeing certain situations. We have a whole different category for them. They're called refugees because
Mm-hmm.
they're coming here because they're in fear of their life because of the violence where they live. Places where the police do not come to help you and there is no one to call.
Mm-hmm.
Those people come here. Those people who, for some reason, are not afford the privilege of a public education come here because they understand how important it is to get an education. Where in their country, the criteria may be different to get an
Yes.
education.
Very different.
So it's all I'm fighting for, as I usually remind people, individual choice.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
fight is collective, but the outcome is choice. It's for people to have this ability to choose how they live without being encumbered by someone else's bias, whether it be race, sex, or
Whatever.
age, or
Yeah.
whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we really we need to start supporting. But the moment you start pitting yourself against somebody else
Mm-hmm.
and it's based in something negative, this is how you get division.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Exactly.
because I can work with anyone on a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to help anyone do the wrong thing
No.
or a bad thing to someone. You know.
Exactly. Again, the number 508-924-3521. 508-924-3521. We got 5 minutes before we get out of here. And Rico, I'm gonna return to that subject, man. You gotta tell me what happened, brother.
Man, it's in their nature, man. It's historical for them. It's in their legacy. Ever since I remember when they was going to back World Series and they still couldn't pull it off, man. It's meant for them to just crumble. I don't know. They might be cursed, man. They might be cursed ever since they did that to run again. It seemed like that's when it started.
Yep. Because
ever since they did that to run again, man, I swear, ever since then, man, they ain't had but like one World Series win, and they had all them appearances and league championships, man, and then they lose all these games in the ninth inning. Bad base running, pitching, serving up. Man, this dude hit 3 home runs last night, man. One man. 3 home runs, man. How many times can you bad pitch the same person?
Hey, look here.
That was terrible, man.
My thing was, I'd have to walk him, man. I'm not gonna give you a home run. Walk, go to first base.
I mean,
but you're not
crazy.
You're not.
I'd have skipped them after that, man. It ain't no way possible. But it was way out of hand by the end anyway. They might as well just let them have fun. But maybe they all got tired swinging them back like that.
Exactly.
It looked like I was there from the night before.
And I'm gonna tell you something. They gonna win. They gonna win it Saturday though, man. They'll get it Saturday. I think they'll get it.
Next year they at home. If they lose these 2 at home to the Dodgers, man, they need to just ban Atlanta from the playoffs. I don't care if they got 110 win. Y'all ain't in here. y'all suspended. But, I was gonna make a point, man, about what we were talking about. When I was young, man, I remember I used to want to be a police officer. And then little by little, I started hearing things from policemen's mouths that made me feel like, you know what, man, they judge me just because. I don't fit into that narrative. And then, at one point in time, I almost joined the military. I just didn't show up.
Yeah.
And I was glad I didn't, because it was like maybe a year or 2 later, I started going through more and more things that the United States showed me was the reality, the true reality. It's different from what I really thought when I was young. And I said, you know what, man, this military thing, I don't agree with that. I believe if I was to join the military and be on the front line and go overseas, I would turn around on my platoon and let some of them have it.
Yep.
And everybody was like, wow, why would you think that? Number one, I wouldn't buy into the propaganda. I probably would play along to get through basic training, but I wouldn't buy into that propaganda of going over here killing somebody I didn't know on behalf of a war that might not even be real.
Exactly.
Or might not be the true reason. And so, I'm thinking about what Badger said earlier about the older you get and you start waking up and you start getting mad and you realize, man, I drank this Kool-Aid and I believe this. I believe this propaganda. But that's one thing about it is I think 85% of everything we participate in and believe in is propaganda.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we don't even realize.
Exactly. Leonard, anything on your heart before we get out of here, brother? We got 2 minutes.
No, not except for, like I do, remind people to participate in your local elections. This is the time for it. Make sure you're up to date and you got an educated choice about your health care. Because it's time to choose your healthcare enrollment time as well. If you don't have a job or what have you, make sure you're going to the ACA, the Affordable Healthcare website to look at those options. And you want to make sure you're informed.
And there's plenty of them there. Good deal. Good deal.
Yes.
VP, anything before we get out of here, brother?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Leonard was saying, and make sure that you guys stay in tune with your local election. Shout out to the people out there in Georgia. Y'all gonna be the turnaround for the South. Just don't let that fall. Y'all showed it in this last election. Just keep it going.
Exactly. Well, Rico, what's going on today at 3:00, sir?
If you missed today's show and would like to see it in its entirety, you can tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at www.dkmmediagroup.com.
Good deal. Captain Leonard, can I get you the prayers out, sir?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you once again for another opportunity to share with others around the world. We hope that we have touched someone's heart, changed someone's mind, and exposed them to a bigger world. These are the blessings we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Been a great broadcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And more than that, I want to thank you for allowing DK Media Group and Associates and the Morning Glow for being a part of your day. It is now straight up and down 10 o'clock. You're about to exit the Morning Glow. But before you go, I want you to do me two favors, if you will. One, I want you to continue to pray for us because we're certainly praying for each and every one of you. Number two, why this is real simple. I want you to go out there, find somebody, and give them a hug because you never know. It could be the only hug that they get, or it could very well be their last. Love you, and ain't nothing you can do about it. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. And we shine some of this light of you from the Morning Glow. Take it out there into this wicked and cruel world that we live in and let your light so shine. If you get an opportunity, give somebody some love. You just might find some love in return. Won't that be a beautiful thing? Have a great day. Have a fantastic weekend. See you right back here Monday morning. And please be blessed.